Now let's go over the Komatsu wheel loader that you'll be operating. We use the WA270 model or similar size. They're about 15-ton units, so they are extremely heavy. Now, a wheel loader is used on a job site usually just to move material around, loaded into dump trucks, etc. Now you'll notice on a wheel loader, for steering, they are articulated. The wheels in the front don't actually turn like in your car. The entire machine will pivot. Finally, you've got four-wheel drive on these things. It's always on, it's an auto traction control. The only thing we tell you is when you drive into dirt to take scoops, if you start to see your wheels start spinning a little bit, jumping, or the whole machine's hopping, let your foot off the gas. You don't just want to hold the foot down and let it keep trying to bite in there if you're already kind of stuck. Next is your boom and bucket controls. Now, the bucket does have an auto level feature, so when you're pulling back or bringing it back down, the bucket will generally maintain that same angle. Now, when you are up high, if you were to curl that bucket all the way in, there is potential that you could actually spill material over the back end of the bucket, so you want to be careful on curling the bucket in. Now, when we get you to start taking scoops out of the pile, there's one main point we want to show you. On the top corner of the blade, you will see a matching colored segment on the top of the bucket. It's usually red, yellow, it can be a different color that your instructor will point out. That indicates your blade angle. When you're sitting all the way up in the cab, you can't actually see the front blade of the wheel loader. So you need the top of the bucket to understand the orientation. You want those lines to be generally horizontal, so you're going straight in there. If it was angled all the way down or all the way up, you obviously are not going to get a very good scoop. After you go on there, you'll scoop it all the way up, you're going to curl that bucket. Generally, you want to have the bucket curled all the way in, and then to move it, you want to have it low and tight. That's generally below your window. The only time you should be up above your cab with a fully loaded bucket of dirt is when you're moving forward slowly to dump it. We should never see you maneuvering around the site at all with your bucket way up in the sky, because that's where you're very top heavy and the machine is less stable. Driving and parking position, two different pieces. Driving, just curl it all the way up. You usually want it about a foot or two above the ground. The best indicator for you is you want this right below your window. Just make sure it's not up higher so you can't see. You also don't want it all the way to the ground, otherwise you're going to be dragging that thing while you're driving. For parking position, relatively simple. Just you're going to set the boom on the ground, flatten the blade so that blade is touching the ground, and that's parking position. Okay, now let's look inside the cab of the equipment. First and foremost, the safety pieces for this equipment. Now, before you get in there, we like to let people know the steering wheel on a wheel loader is live when the equipment is running, even with the parking brake on. So when you do climb up there, be careful not to bump the steering wheel because the entire machine will articulate. You'll use your 3 points of contact to get up. There's a ladder there, so 2 hands, 1 foot, 2 feet, 1 hand all the way up. You'll have a seat. You're going to put your seat belt on. Next is your parking brakes. There's really 2 red switches in this machine. On the dash over on the right, you'll see a red switch and you'll see a red parking indicator on the display. That's the overall parking brake for the machine not to move. So you want to make sure that's on, and you will not touch that until the instructor lets you know. The second piece is another red switch, so we call a parking brake. It's really a joystick lockout. Over to the right of the joystick, you're going to see a little red switch over there, and that basically locks out the controls on the joystick. Your instructor will go over that with you, and do not disengage that until your instructor tells you to. Next, for seat adjustments, there's a grab bar right in the very front that'll slide the seat forward and back. Below that, you have an air ride control. All of our equipment has air ride seats, so you can adjust it up or down. And then you have a backrest adjustment. Over on the back corner, that'll actually tilt the seat back or forward. And then the final piece is your steering column adjustment. If you need to move the steering wheel closer or farther, just like in your car, there's a little lever on the side there. That'll bring that in closer or farther to you. Now for your foot controls in the wheel loader. Now you'll see 3 pedals down there. There's 2 brake pedals on both sides of the steering wheel. These are connected, just like in your car, except you have an extra one over on the left. And then you've got your gas pedal on the right. Now, we like to instruct people to use it just like your car. It's really just use your right foot. You're either going to be on the accelerator or the brake, one or the other. Now, if you want to try using your left foot on the brake as well, that's fine, but usually we're going to focus on just instructing with your right foot. Now for the steering wheel. Now you'll notice on the steering wheel there is a little turning knob on there. That's usually what you want to use in a wheel loader, just because this steering wheel will actually articulate. It turns about 4 times. So it's very difficult to hold the steering wheel like the standard 10 and 2 like you would in a car. So use the steering knob to go 4 one way and you can go 4 the other way. Again, it'll articulate the entire machine one way or the other. Then the next piece is the shifter. On the left side of the steering column, you're gonna see a little, it looks like a turn signal. It's forward, neutral, reverse. There's gonna be 3 clicks there. You will see a dial, it'll have a speed setting on there. We're always gonna stay in the number 2, so you don't ever wanna touch that adjustment at all. It should stay on 2. And then next, your joystick. Now again, that joystick will operate the boom and bucket. If you pull back on that right joystick, it's gonna raise the boom up. If you push forward, it's gonna bring the boom down. If you go to the right, it's going to open the bucket. And if you go to the left, it's going to close the bucket. And then in the wheel loader, you've got your mirrors, and it actually has a backup camera. You'll see a screen over on your right. That's what you're gonna end up using mostly to back up, although it is good to look over your shoulder. And then you also have mirrors, so feel free to use those. And then finally, you've got your climate control. All of our equipment's fully climate controlled, so you'll see a blue panel there and an auto temperature setting on your dash. Feel free to adjust that up or down so you're comfortable. That's it for your Komatsu wheel loader.